episode of Equine Ed is about proper nutrition and grooming. Now, it doesn't matter how much grooming you do, how many baths you give the horse, if he doesn't have proper nutrition, he's just not going to look good. We went to go see the head nutritionist of Seminole Feeds, a very popular good brand of feeds here in the Southeast. And here's what he had to say.
Well, the feed standpoint, you know, you're certainly always looking at, okay, how do I supply him with calories to perform? But at the same time, I'm looking at it to say, is this a young growing horse? It's a 2-year-old in training, or a 3-year-old even, maybe still growing, or yeah, and you have to address that at the same time you're addressing the idea of, can you improve his performance ability by the feed that you give him?
So there are different types of feeds as the horse is growing up?
Yes.
Like
yes.
what? Tell me how you start.
Just like I use a comparison a lot of times with dogs. You know, you wouldn't feed a puppy, young growing puppy, a maintenance ration or a performance ration. You give them puppy food. So with young horses are no different. You give them feed that is designed specifically for that stage of their life. They're only in that growing phase once, and after they're physiologically mature, you know, they don't grow anymore, so you don't have the opportunity to feed that system like it needs to be. Pounds is what I deal in because that's what the animal actually consumes, is quantity. How you get that into the feed bucket for the horse to eat is by a scoop or whatever. The big thing is the amount of feed that I'm giving that horse supporting his ability to perform like you want to and still maintain his body weight like you like for him to see. That's just part of the feed program, because you've got to feed all the hay that the horse can eat. You have feed, you have hay, or water, you have mineral supplement that you give them free choice. So there's a lot that goes into a daily feeding program. The thing with horses is don't overfeed them. All of your feeds that I'm aware of are higher in calorie count than what you would have with a grass or hay. So you can add a lot of calorie intake to the horses with a small amount of feed if you're not too careful. And easy keepers would become obese if you're not careful. So, you know, the thing that I talk with people about all the time is, how much feed do you give that horse in a day's time? And I've only had one person over the years say, yeah, I give him all, you know, won't eat any more, you know. And the rest of them, if you ask the question as, if you gave him another flake of hay, would he eat it? And it's always yes. Well, from my standpoint, that's what we need to be doing. We need to find out the amount of hay that horse needs in a day's time and give him that amount, and then supplement, if you will, with the feed portion. You can typically cut back on that amount. Then his digestive tract works properly. He's happier. He's not in a stall and mad when you walk in the morning because he hadn't had anything to eat since midnight. He needs to have something to chew on all the time, because the acids in their stomach flow 24 hours a day, whether they're sleeping or eating. And so you see them take a nap or they will sleep some, but it's for a fairly short period of time if you compare that to what a human normally sleeps in a given stretch. The acids in their stomach start building up, and in my mind it tells them to go, I better go eat something. If they eat something, then that helps all that flow out of the stomach so they don't get ulcers. So you try to give them something constantly that if they're hungry or they want to eat, they can. So that keeps things going. So if they ran out of hay in a stall or out in a paddock at midnight, by the time you get to the barn at 7 the next morning or so, they're mad because there's nothing for them to eat. Their stomach hurts, and you'll see them, they'll pin their ears back. They're not happy campers because they're starving. And a lot of times for those horses, you need to give them a flake of hay first before you feed them to get them to the point where when they eat, it's at a normal pace and they chew.
We're now going to go visit our experts and see how they groom their properly fed horses.
Hi, I want to talk to you about grooming. It is really important. It's not just so that your horse looks nice to your friends or impresses the judge, but it has everything to do with your horse's health and welfare, his condition, his comfort, his muscle tone, and whether he's able to perform the chores you set out for him when you ride him. It's so important that I, for one, think grooming should never be left to guys. Now, In the old days, we're talking a long time ago, back before Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan and the Revolution and all that, we used to refer to grooming as women's work. Not anymore. We know better. Men know our place. And for instance, intuitively, I know that if I hose my horse off today, by tomorrow morning, he's still groomed. It's great. In the wintertime, it's harder because there's a lot of heavy lifting to do, but take that blanket off in the morning and magically overnight, it has groomed him right up, slap the saddle on, and you're good to go. Well, admittedly, there are some times where grooming takes a bit more effort than that, and that's exactly where a good woman comes in. I'm an enlightened guy, a new age kind of guy, and I don't even begin to think of grooming as women's work. I like to think of it as a woman's pleasure. And I, speaking for all guys, would be the last ever to deny a woman of her pleasure. Oh, one other thing, you know, the curry comb, it gets dirty and you bang it on the side of the stall. Don't do that. You guys hate that. Don't ever do that.
Coming from a woman, I can tell you good grooming starts with great products and very good brushes. Caroline Williams, one of our experts, showed me this really good maneuver. You take a curry comb and you go in a circular motion, and in that circular motion you're lifting the dirt off the horse. After you've curried the side of the horse that you need to curry, you then switch hands and you move the curry into your other hand, and you take a body brush and then you swipe and brush, swipe and brush, swipe and brush. Well, she's a whole lot better at this than I am, so let's go see how she does it.
My grandfather had never any less than 100 horses on the circus at any one time. From the big draft Percherons that pulled the wagons, to all the Lipizzan stallions for all of the Liberty work, Andalusian horses for the high school dressage, a lot of white horses in that case. All the grooms, there were 6 horses to 1 groom. So as they curry the horse properly, clean the brush off, there was a board behind each stallion that then had to get knocked off onto the board, and there had to be 12 marks behind each horse. Thereafter, a solid grooming, because the horses always had to be in tip-top shape. They were always in the public's eye, whether even they were coming from the train to the circus lot, they would get completely groomed and tacked for the parade. Then the stable master would come and with a white glove go over the horse, make sure the entire horse was nice and clean, check the white glove. If not, groom was in big trouble. He didn't get his wurst for lunch or something. Anyway, so now I'm going to show you how it's done. All right. How are you doing that? Secret. This is a grooming secret. This is especially for Mr. Woods, since grooming is woman's work. I just wanted to make it really pretty. I think the Czar looks pretty good. We have all the bells and whistles on here. But I think it's time for me to redo my makeup, huh? What do you think, Sid? Yeah. Thanks.
I'm Ann and this is Mari, and Mari's a Grand Prix horse and she's a jumper and she has to look good for her shows. And in today's episode we're going to talk about the difference between grooming horses at home and then grooming them for the show. And the first thing that we do here at our farm is we have them one good turnout before they leave. And Mari just came in from her turnout. So the next thing we're going to do is give her a really good bath from head to toe. and that's going to involve standing on ladders. It's going to involve scrubbing the roots of her mane to make her nice and white. It's going to be scrubbing her head, scrubbing her tail really well, since they're gray, all with whitening shampoo. And the reason behind that is that you can never be as effective at a show as you can at home. So we try to get them extra clean before they leave, and that way from here on at the show it's little touch-up baths here and there. So we're going to go ahead and give Mari a great bath, and then we'll get you to the next step. Alright, so now we've given Mari a great bath, and now we have to finish taking care of her. And that involves a couple things. One, a scraper. You never ever use your hand to squeegee the water off of a horse. It just does not do as good of a job as a scraper does. Two, a clean towel. So many times I see horses and they've lost their hair around their eyes and around their face, and it's, I think, because people aren't towel drying their heads off after baths, and it's letting some of the dirt and debris still remain in there as well as the soap because you can't squeegee their face, and then that makes them lose their hair. So I never ever leave the wash rack without a towel and a scraper. And if you can't reach their head, you stand on a stool to do it. Because lots of times I get the excuse, well, they kept putting their head up. Well, kind of get up to their level and give them a good spa treatment on their face. They don't know it's for their own good, and actually most of the time once you start rubbing on their face, they kind of like it because they can't really scratch there themselves. You always dry their legs as well as their face with the towel, and the reason being is the water will sit on their legs and it'll sit in the crevices, and it creates what we call a little bit of a rain rot or a fungus condition, or what we call scratches. So you always have to make sure that their legs are nice and dry, especially before you put them back in a stall at all times. Mari's all bathed now, and she has a great coat conditioner all over her. So the next step is, so she doesn't catch a cold in this bit of a breeze, is we put a nice scrim on her. And a scrim is a little bit like a cooler. It's a little lightweight, so it doesn't have to keep them warm, but it does keep the breeze off. And throw that up and over her. Now you can use anything if you don't have a real scrim. I've even seen people use a little lightweight blanket that they get from Target if you need to, just to keep them warm. I've seen people use a cotton sheet as well, a nice cotton horse sheet, anything that'll absorb the wet and keep the breeze off of them. Then the other thing I do is I tuck her tail through a tail strap, and the last thing I do, just to keep everything nice and tidy, is I might give her tail one finely little knot, and that'll keep it out of the shavings when she gets into her stall. Mari's pretty much ready to load up and go to the show. We don't have her braided particularly this day because she's not doing any big Grand Prix, and she's also not doing the hunter classes or anything where the braids would count. So she's going to go with just her hair flying, and she's going to get loaded up on the trailer, and we're going to have a great show.
Well, we're going to take this horse in and get him groomed up.
Okay, well, while you're bathing him, I'm going to go ahead and get another horse out and ride.
Bathing him? That's definitely women's work.
Yes, Tommy, it's me and you. This is woman's work. I like to get the temperature of the water nice and warm just because I certainly wouldn't want to be squirted with cold water, and I imagine Tommy wouldn't appreciate it either. I'm going to start down at his feet and legs. Tommy just came in from being ridden, and even though we're having a fairly cool day here, I want to kind of give him a chance to cool out. Now, if it was really hot out, I wouldn't be using the warmer water. I would go ahead and use cool water because the purpose would be to get him cooled down, not just the baby. But he is not exhibiting any signs of being really heated. His respirations are fine. He didn't get a long workout. So consequently, this is more about making him pretty.
Hee-haw! is hard to catch. She's got no buzzer, but he won't last. She's a free bird. She's like Daisy. Yep, like Daisy do by me. She's as smooth as San Mercedes and her stuff was an F-150. She's a free bird. She's like Daisy. Yeehaw! She's a little wild and a little crazy. She's like Daisy. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeehaw! Free bird. She's like Daisy. Yeehaw!
Dominant stuff, and now he's going to get a special treatment. This is Shapley's MTG Mane Tail Groom. And we really particularly like this for our reiners because it helps them to grow a good mane. Every horse, of course, has a genetic predisposition to how much mane he or she is going to grow. However, this will help your horse reach that potential, okay? What we do is we put it in along the base of the mane here and rub it in. And if you do this weekly, it's going to help your horse to keep a moist mane, and it's going to help him grow that fabulous long mane that reiners are known for. Okay, I think I'm done. Let's go see if George approves of Tommy's new look. Okay, Tommy is beautified. He's here for your inspection.
Well, let me look. Yeah, that's adequate.
That's our show from Equine Ed called Beauty Inside and Out. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you learned something from it. Now, if you go to Facebook, all of our experts will be there. So post a comment, ask a question, they're there to answer. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Seminole Feeds and Shapley's. Next time, our show is going to be about horse trailers and towing vehicles. Thanks for watching.